Everyone makes it look easy. The colleague who walks into a room and within 10 minutes knows 3 people's names, their jobs, their weekend plans. The person at the party who collects connections like they cost nothing. The friend of a friend who just fits everywhere they go. And then there's you. Standing in the same room, saying the right things, laughing at the right moments, and still leaving with the quiet, familiar feeling that nothing actually connected. Not because you didn't try, but because trying felt like performing. And performing is exhausting when everyone else seems to just be. So you started wondering, is something wrong with me? Why does something so natural for everyone else feel like a skill I was never taught? Here's what nobody tells you. You were not taught it, not really, and that is not your fault. There was a version of you younger, smaller, who wanted connection just as badly as anyone else. Maybe you were the quiet one in class, the one who observed more than participated, the one who had 1 or 2 close friends and when they weren't around, you didn't quite know how to navigate the rest of the room. Or maybe you moved schools, changed cities, got close to people and then had to start over, and somewhere in that cycle of building and losing, your brain made a calculation. Why invest if it doesn't last? Psychologists call this the cost-benefit analysis of social risk. Every time you consider reaching out, initiating, being vulnerable enough to say, "I'd like to know you better," your brain runs a rapid threat assessment. What if they're not interested? What if I misread the dynamic? What if I try and it's awkward and now I have to see this person every day? And for most people who struggle to make friends, that assessment is not balanced. It is heavily weighted toward risk, because somewhere along the way, the cost of social rejection got coded as catastrophic. Not because you're weak, because your brain learned that lesson from something real. Developmental psychologist Lev Vygotsky argued that social skills are not innate. They are learned within what he called the zone of proximal development. You grow socially by being guided through slightly uncomfortable interactions by people who model connection for you. But what happens when those models weren't there? When the adults around you were emotionally unavailable, or the environment was unstable, or you were simply never given a safe space to practice being socially imperfect? You enter adulthood with the desire for connection fully intact, but the skill set feels incomplete, and the gap between wanting to connect and not knowing how to that gap becomes shame. And shame is very, very good at keeping people isolated. Here is what the research actually shows. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who report difficulty making friends score significantly higher on something called rejection sensitivity, the tendency to anxiously expect, readily perceive, and intensely react to social rejection. In other words, the brain is not waiting to see if rejection happens, it is already preparing for it. It scans conversations for signs of disinterest. It replays interactions looking for moments it might have said the wrong thing. It mistakes neutral expressions for disapproval and silence for dislike. This is not paranoia. This is a nervous system that learned to treat social uncertainty as danger. And here's where it gets more complicated, because rejection sensitivity creates the very outcome it fears. When you expect rejection, you pull back slightly, you become a little more guarded, a little less warm, a little less willing to take the social risks that actually build friendship. And the person on the other side reads that guardedness as disinterest, so they pull back too. Psychologists call this the anxious withdrawal cycle. You wanted connection. Your fear of rejection made you seem unavailable. Their distance confirmed your fear. And now you have evidence that people don't want to connect with you, evidence you created without knowing. But here's the distinction that changes everything. There is a difference between not knowing how to make friends and being someone who cannot be a friend. People who struggle to make friends are often the most loyal, most attentive, most emotionally present friends in existence once the barrier is crossed. They don't take connection for granted. They don't collect people, they invest. The problem is not who you are inside the friendship. The problem is the bridge, the approach, the initiation. The small talk that feels meaningless but is actually the scaffolding every deep relationship is built on. And scaffolding is a skill. Skills can be learned. So, if you are someone who has moved through life watching others connect with an ease that feels foreign to you, this is what I want you to understand. You are not missing something, you are carrying something, a history of social experiences that taught your nervous system to protect itself at the cost of openness. And protection made sense then. It may not be serving you now. A landmark study from the University of Michigan found that the single greatest predictor of adult friendship is not personality, not charm, not social skill. It is repeated, unplanned interaction over time. Proximity and consistency. Showing up in the same space, regularly, without the pressure of it meaning something every single time. Which means the path forward is not about becoming someone else. It is not about forcing yourself to be more outgoing or more charming or less yourself. It is about reducing the stakes, finding one environment, one class, one group, one recurring space where you can simply exist near the same people repeatedly. Let familiarity do what performance never could. Because here is the truth about people who struggle to make friends. They don't struggle to connect, they struggle to believe connection is safe enough to try for. And once that belief starts to shift even slightly, everything else follows. You were never bad at friendship, you were just protecting yourself from something that hurt, and that makes you human, not broken. If this put a name to something you've felt for a long time, leave a comment below. I read every single one. And if this is your first time here, this is Rewired Instincts. We break down the psychology behind the way people think, feel, and behave. Subscribe if that's the kind of understanding you're after. Protect your peace.